Hello and welcome to the County Conversation, Series 2, Episode 1. We're back for another year of all things county cricket, covering both the men's and women's games. This week, we're catching you up on everything you may have missed over the winter break and the resulting state of play as the 2025 season is about to kick off, and also everything that's to look forward to with the first round of fixtures starting this week. My name's Cameron Ponsonby. I'm joined by Nick Friend, and later on we'll hear from the cricketers' new signing for the summer, Melinda Farrell, and also new PCA chair and Warwickshire bowler Olly Hannon-Dalby on the biggest issues confronting players and the sport ahead of the new season. This episode and the entire series is sponsored by the Cricket Draft. More on them later. Well, over the winter, what's happened? A lot is the answer. The 100 was sold, raising over £500,000 for the English game, which in effect is going to dictate every single other conversation you're likely to have about the sport for a very long time. All 18 counties gained a women's team through Project Darwin. There are now 8 Tier 1 teams that are fully professional across the country. That competition kicks off in 3 weeks, where we'll have a special episode. I don't know if it'll be a special episode. It'll be an episode. All our episodes are special.
They're all equally special.
Exactly, Nick. There have been NOC disputes between players and the ECB as the board aims to, quote, protect the summer. We have more on that with Hannon-Dalby later. And a third Flintoff has joined the professional ranks. But first, Nick, can you explain just kind of how big an impact the sale of the 100 and the money entering the game could possibly have and what it means? Because it feels like for years, issues like the schedule, we've moaned about continuously. But now there's actually the kind of financial legroom that we might actually see action as well as just words.
Yeah, good's the word, isn't it? Like, as a refreshing number of people in county cricket have said to me in the last few weeks, money is great, and it's great when businesses have money. But that doesn't make a successful business or a sustainable business. What makes both of those two things is money spent well, money spent wisely. And what I think we're going to see from conversations I've had, I was down in Bristol or across sort of like
in the west.
Yeah. It's not left, that's the word.
Left works, I like left.
Works on the map. Turn left out of London. I was there recently and spoke to their CEO and chair for a big piece on the Cricket website, actually, and asked them precisely this, and they were quite wise people to talk to, I think, because as they both said, when you're at a club that has kind of just been on the precipice, on the brink, and struggling for money and cash straps and all those things, actually you kind of know how important it is to make sure you don't go back there. So I think we'll see a lot of caution, which I think is important. A lot of the councils I know have spoken quite openly about the need for a rainy day fund. And some, just sort of awareness that the money will run out. You only get this once, and you can't afford for it to run out, rather. So I don't think we're going to see players getting 200% pay hikes. I don't think we're going to see a whole plethora of new grounds, because, to be honest, 20 million quid is not getting you very far in the search for a new ground anyway. But I think what it will do is give the clubs that want a new ground and have spoken about the need for a new ground, Gloucestershire, Worcestershire, to name two, the impetus to get going on that. Certainly, Gloucestershire said to me that they were kind of budgeting 2 grounds at once. That that you can't just build a new one with this money, but you do also need to simultaneously make sure that your current home doesn't go derelict and that you don't put all of your eggs in that one basket.
It's funny you mentioned the kind of 20 million figure there, because I was talking to one kind of county president, and their mind was to, if you give them, I think it's £26 million is the figure that they're expecting to get. And he was saying the first thing I want to do with that 26 million is find another 26.
Well,
it's about kind of scaling it up.
Well, I wonder if we've spoken to the same prison, because
we haven't. I think confirmed top secret sources. It was not the Gloucestershire president.
No, but the quote that I've heard a few times is that if we're going to spend £5 million, we've got to make sure that £5 million makes another £5 million. That is the. I think that's just decent business, isn't it? That's, I suppose, how it works. Exactly. We don't know what we're talking about with business, but
we don't. But I understand the idea of that. It's remarkable. I know that kind of myself, potentially you disagree about kind of chief correspondent of the Cricketer here, in that for all they kind of turn our nose up at the 100, this is a remarkable opportunity for the game to kind of, realistically, these people have bought what they bought. No one really knows. They bought a thing. They bought a kind of
they bought the rights to 3 weeks in
exactly,
August,
but that's
excluding the One Day Cup.
But that has then sparked interest in a handful of other counties.
Yeah.
Then being approached by investors that didn't get the 100 team. There is all of a sudden, out of nothing, interest sparks in English domestic cricket, financial interest, and if you can create that into a sustainable model, which sees health and prosperity and the chance for these counties, rather than just looking after their own kind of front door, the chance to go into local communities and boost local participation in the sport, that's a fundamentally massive potential change.
It's also the bit we've not mentioned is that the first thing a lot of counties will do is pay off existing debt. Someone said to me recently, I think it's something like £200 million worth of debt across the 18 first-class counties, and if you pay the debt off, you're not only paying the debt off, you're also paying off the interest that you've got to pay on it every year.
I saw that in one of your pieces. Was it Gloucestershire saying they don't have to pay £200,000 a year?
Yeah, just to clear their own existing debt. So that's a massive boost. But go back to the first thing I said. This money does only come once, and I suppose the precaution for counties here is that you kind of sense that in the last few years where the ECB have bailed out counties, if a county knocks on the ECB's door in 15 years' time and says, guys, we've lost it all.
Yeah.
I'm not,
See ya.
Yeah.
I think that's it. There was some pretty punchy quotes, I think, in the Telegraph when the competition got sold, and there were like these anonymous sources where I was like, if you guys muck this up again, that's on you, basically. Very quickly, before we move on to kind of the nuts and bolts of player moves, etc. Paul Farbrace, the Sussex coach, his quote, they said on the media day to everyone, just in terms of the exact specific schedule issue, because I actually, for the first time, I feel invigorated talking about this because there is the potential to change.
Well, it's that.
Cool. Let me give you the quote. I think we need to be playing a minimum of 12 championship games, so that's 2 down from what's currently played. I think that's the ideal. I'd play 10 T20 games, which is 4 fewer than what's currently played, because I think we would all rather have 5 home games that we can make a really big fuss of in the blast, and then 50 over cricket. We either take it seriously and treat it properly, or we carry on what we're doing at the moment, which is effectively a second 11 competition. Please, can you explain for the listeners and viewers why this money would allow the potential for a reduction in fixtures?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, and it's, as you say, I think that, as Olly Hannon-Dalby will say later, and as he said before, you go back to the first day of PCA meeting in 1967, and the minutes were the same. The players weren't being paid enough. The players didn't like the schedule. And the players thought the umpires were bad. And in a way,
I often think those 3 things myself. To be honest,
in a way, the game has never changed. But what changes this time is we've actually got we've got one of the barriers has kind of been breached, and that the major issue around the schedule for years has been one of the major issues has been the commercial element, the financial element, and certainly the requirement for counties to have their 7 home blast games because they're the money makers. There is now money coming to clubs in a way that hasn't been before, really. And so, therefore, there is that opportunity to say, right, we could lose 1 home game here, another home game there, lose 2 games off, 4 games that in Farbrace's view off the blast schedule, which creates 4 game days, which gives you 4 days back game days, but also potentially, I know the back-to-back games have been a huge bone of contention, probably 2 or 3 travel days back, which straight away gives you a spare week in the schedule. Yeah. And when players talk about a change in the schedule, they are misunderstood. No one is saying we don't want to play cricket. No one is saying anything drastic. Players want a tweak, and a tweak is a week. Is a week here, which then becomes, if you think about it, split that week in half. That becomes
the Zim SAT 10 competition, sponsored by DreamBet.
Well, it is a problem. The game's obsessed with cricket, right? So whenever there's if you open up the cricket wall chart, for example, and you see
the game's obsessed with cricket.
The game's obsessed with putting games of cricket on.
Okay.
So if you open up the cricket wall chart and you circle days where there is no cricket, most people look at that and go, we could put cricket there. Yeah. But actually what the game needs to do is to find a week and a half in the schedule and go, we can split those 10, 11, 12 days and put them in 3 or 4 different blocks and create 3 or 4 different blocks of 3 days where players are resting, recuperating, not playing, travelling, those things that at the moment and for the last decades have not existed, which has caused over time the point we've got to here, which is this real frustration at particularly particularly the welfare, the emotion, the mental and physical welfare, but also the sense that standards and elite performance have been driven down. I think if you wanted me to guess or predict what will happen with this, I think we'll end up with 2 more games that Barbados has called for, and I think we're going to end up with 12 championship games and 12 blast games, which would then mean you split the blast into 3 regionalised groups. Doing that then means
3 divisions of 6. That's
if you
fine.
cut down on travel, it means that if you go to 3 groups of 6, it means, for example, that Northants aren't going to Durham. For example, Durham aren't going to Northants. Do you play everyone home and away in your group? That's 10 games, and you play one team from the other 2 groups to make your 12 or something.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. There is going to be some form of announcement on this coming up, or is that top secret? Or
I don't think it's announcement of. Look, this is very early stages. I don't think you get an announcement for what it's going to look like. I think you might get an announcement soon as to what is being looked at over the next few months.
I'll take that.
It certainly won't be sorted in.
That's fine. I'm more meant in the idea that there'll be announcement, that there'll be further announcements in the future. If I know I'm in the minority here, but if somehow we go through all of this and we still end up with a league where everyone's not playing each other twice, I'm going to be so frustrated. I know I want 3 divisions of 6. Fine, whatever. Play each other twice. Just make it make sense. That's my choice anyway. Then we'll have playoffs, so you won't be 10 matches. We'll have a little bit more fun, etc., etc. Right. That was just my bone of contention. I need to get off my chest for the first, second, potentially 14th time. What's been happening in the county championship? Transfer. I'm going to go to transfers first. The kind of headlines over the winter and of late is Sherwood Bashir has joined Glamorgan on loan for the first 3 championship games. He was playing in their match against Cardiff MTCU the last few days and hasn't had the best time of it. He's bowled 18 overs, 1 for 90, give or take. 1 for 92. Kane Williamson is a big name signing. He's joined Middlesex for 5 championship matches and 10 T20s. That's a minimum on both counts. He's joining later on in a few months' time. Cameron Green is with Gloucestershire for April and May. Kemal Roach is back for Surrey just for April before Nathan Smith comes back. And Corey Flintoff, Freddie Flintoff's eldest son, has signed a rookie deal with Kent. But, Nick.
Yes.
I want you to tell me who you think the best signing has been, taking into account availability. Basically, who's the least sexy player which has actually made a team significantly better?
I would say I think Zafar Goa gets Middlesex promoted.
Nice. This is the good stuff.
And I don't know how many teams were interested in him, but I can't be surprised if most of them weren't. Like he's played a test for Pakistan. He's now a locally qualified player rather. He's now in that bit, I think, where he's qualifying. I think it's a little while, but could potentially qualify for England at some point. I actually interviewed him earlier today, and that'll be on the cricket.com sometime next 24, 48 hours.
Good stuff.
He wants to play for England. And you might laugh and say, well, doesn't everyone? But left-arm spinner with 11 fifers in 30-odd championship games for Gloucestershire, which I just...
Why did Gloucestershire let him go? Surely the Gloucestershire lads are kind of a bit beside themselves because they've only got 1 spinner left in their books.
I think... I don't think anyone... He'd improve that Gloucestershire side. And to be completely honest, I think the Cameron Green deal actually is a slightly odd one in itself because sure, he doesn't actually replace Zafar because Zafar is locally qualified this year, wouldn't have been overseas, and obviously Cam Green, as we know, has been paid for by an unnamed member. I find it a strange deal. Big name, well, pretty big name, seriously good player, but he's sort of coming back from a broken back, isn't he? And we know that Cricket Australia are bloody protective of their players the best of times, let alone ahead of a World Test Championship final, which is then ahead of an Ashes series. He's already said he's not going to bowl until October. So they kind of sign a middle-order batter. And I reckon if there's one thing that Gloucestershire have loads of, it's middle-order batters. And look, obviously Cameron Green, a serious player, but it does feel like the one position that I'm not convinced that, I don't know, I can't think of many sides that have signed an overseas middle-order player for their start of the season, if you know what I mean. Everyone wants a bowler who bats, right?
It's a shiny toy, though, isn't it? It's Cameron Green.
It is.
In 20 years' time, you go, can you remember when Cameron Green played here?
Oh, absolutely. Look, he will probably average 140, and this little segment will look really silly.
Yeah.
But I do think in the long run, that's 5 games. I think Zafar is a seriously good signing because 11 fivers in 30 games as a spinner in England. So I
Excellent.
don't know, it's just gone like under the radar.
What confuses me about that, though, is you look at his average and it's still just like 30. So I'm assuming that basically in 30 first innings, he doesn't get any and just ties it down in the second innings.
Bristol's not known for its big turn. He was telling me earlier that he played one game for Gloucestershire. I think this was at Old Trafford, where he bowled 65 overs in one innings.
Good stuff. Nick, we've got to move on from Zaffagar, unfortunately. Kind of things of note, the big names around the traps. James Anderson came out today and said he simultaneously said that he reckons he can play for another 3 years. And it was also announced he's missing the first month of the season with a reoccurrence of the same calf injuries that's been plaguing him for years. So, look, I found that quite funny. I can play for another 3 years, not the next 4 weeks. Nothing personal, James. Johnny Bairstow is captaining Yorkshire, which is kind of very exciting. I'm going to come back to Johnny Bairstow later because I think that Yorkshire kind of team with Bairstow and David Mallory going back 5 of the first 7 matches, if they get a sniff of Joe Root and Harry Brook, serious batting order. What else am I looking at? The big names: Sam Cook, Dan Worley, key ones to look out for. Absences: Durham are unlikely to see Ben Stokes for the first block of 6 fixtures they've got before the Zimbabwe test. The coach there said basically if they see him at all, alongside Bridie Foss and Mark Wood, they'll be a bonus. Basically, they're not expected to see him on the park. He's coming back from his hamstring injury. Other bits of note: Zach Crawley, his tough time at the back continued. He played in the university game against Loughborough, and he got 2 ball duck. I know they're trying to find form. I don't need England Open playing against children and standing in the field for 3 days. I'll just have another net because there's nothing to gain. If he scored 100, he'd be like, yeah, he's studying biology. And he gets 0, and he's probably walked up and gone like, oh, wish I hadn't done that. Anyway, it's time for a quick break, and we'll be right back.
The Cricketers' award-winning team brings our subscribers news, features and insight on county and international cricket every single day. You can try us now by signing up for £1. Yes, you heard that correctly, just £1 at thecricketer.com/digital.
Nick.
Yes, hello.
I
don't know who else could be talking today.
I thought that maybe leaving that up. I'm going to keep it in. The main storylines you're hoping to see this year, kind of, what are your hopes for the upcoming season?
Everyone's it's like he could go all not nostalgic, but sentimental with it and be like, hope it's sunny and hope we have more nice storylines like we had last year. An unfancied side win the Blast. I'd like the One Day Cup final to be played on day 1. I don't want to be in Trent again in that weather. I think Surrey are really good and will be really good again. I can't tartle it past them. I think they've got stronger than they were last year. But my hope, my big hope, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, actually, the schedule. I really hope everyone knows what they're playing for, if that makes sense. I don't want us, I feel like we've been in for the schedule stuff. I don't want everyone to go through a year where there's a review taking place and to hit August and September and not know if it's top tier of 10 next year or something like that. And, you want to know if you are coming second in Div 2, that is, getting you up next year. All sort of things. You don't want to come 7th in Div 1 and find out that relegates you because they're now, because they're going to be
3 Division 6.
Whatever happens needs to be done in such a way that there is enough clarity going around. We'll get this, I'm sure, in the coming weeks with the women's stuff and Tier 1. But there have been far too many times in the women's game where we talk about, it's a fresh start, it's a new, what's it like having this new phase of women's domestic cricket. It's like, well, actually, it's getting a bit annoying because we had Darwin and we had the Kids Super League and now we've got this. And you're going to have to settle on something. I don't think it's that dissimilar to where the men's game is now, and that you can't keep on saying to people, what do you think is scheduled? What do you think should happen? What do you think should happen? Because actually,
we've had the same conversations for a long time.
So if this is the year, and Rob Andrew, the head of the professional game for the ECB, has said that this is the year, he said it was the next bit after the 100 sales, and that auction process is now, kind of been completed, and they're all in their exclusive discussions and stuff. If this is the year, it needs to be the year. We can't get to next year ask the same questions, because actually the various stakeholders, mainly the players and supporters, will just lose faith in that ever changing, and will kind of stop caring in a way. This needs to be the year, and it needs to be done the way that doesn't ruin running, which I think potentially has felt close to happening before.
Perfect. Right. In the vein of hopes for the season, the Cricketer have a brand new signing this year, with the great Melinda Farrell joining for the summer ahead. And I caught up with her to quickly discuss her hopes for the season, her ones to watch, and some SA20 magic that's coming our way. Well, it gives me great pleasure to welcome my friend and now colleague, new cricketer signing, Melinda Farrell, to the County Conversation podcast. First and foremost, Mel, how are you? And second of all, for what do we owe the pleasure? What is going to be your new exciting role over the coming months?
Oh, well, I think I'm just here to keep you in line, Cam, because how mischievous you are. No, it is so lovely to be working with you and everyone at the Cricketer, and I am extremely excited. We had a meeting in London and sort of got a bit more clarification about what's going to happen, and it's just really exciting because in a way, I've got a bit of carte blanche to write about what excites me both in the county game and international cricket, men's, women's. I'm going to be around and about throughout the entire summer at county championship matches, at the Blast, at international cricket. So there's just so much going on in the next 6 months, and I'm really excited to be back. So I could be writing about anything. I'll probably be doing quite a bit of video as well, as you would well know, me being me. But yeah, just talking about the game over here and just looking out for stories that inspire or interest me. And hopefully that means that other people find them interesting as well.
Well, here at the County Conversation, we're going to be most excited for all the county inside. Get the international cricket out of it. Not interested. I've always associated you with Warwickshire and Northamptonshire. I know you've done quite a lot of work in both. And I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. In terms of the upcoming county championship block, who's the type of one of the players from those two counties which we should be keeping an eye on?
Oh. You were supposed to ask me which team I was looking forward to watching.
Which team are you looking forward to watch? Melinda Farrell.
Do you mind if I ask
That's
you
the question.
this and then completely change the question?
I thought that was the question. We did our prep.
It's going to be a very interesting year. I'm looking forward to seeing and tell you what happens with the coaching setup, because both sides having new coaches on board, and I guess particularly seeing what Darren Lehman does with Northants, because when I've been there in the past couple of years, there were kind of a lot of rumblings about players being unhappy, and that we saw them lose some very talented players as well. So he's got a big job ahead of him, but maybe that is the sort of coach we saw when he came into the Australian setup. It was on the back of Mickey Arthur, who was kind of a very patriarchal kind of figure, and then Buff came in and I think added a lot more levity, and then that didn't work out in the end. But while it did work, it worked out quite well. So I do find that sometimes with counties or with teams in general, that there's a coach can be the right coach for the team at the right time. It might not be all the time, but maybe he is the sort of coach that they need at this time, and he's going to be in a great mood at the moment because his son's just helped South Australia win the Sheffield Shield. So that's going to be really an interesting one for me, just to see how he copes with them overall. I tell you, I'm interested in watching a former Northants player to see how he goes, is Emilio Gay. Because, he's really lovely to watch, stylish and talented batter. And, you thought he was one of the ones that maybe they could build something around at Northants, but now he's gone to Durham. And so for me, that's actually a really interesting one to watch going ahead, because I just think, if he's in a fresh environment, maybe that might bring out the best in him and we might see some really good stuff from him. I'm really looking forward to, this is probably a really boring thing to say, I'm really looking forward to seeing Tom Latham at Warwickshire. I'm very excited about seeing Tom Latham at Warwickshire.
I hope he gets there.
Yeah, well,
he's broken something. He's broken an arm or a finger, but he'll get there eventually. I'm sure
he'll get there eventually. And I mean, some of the overseas signings, yes, I'm excited about local talent. Don't think I'm being anti-English now. But yeah, some of the international signings seeing around the county championship this year, particularly some from New Zealand, some from South Africa, some from Australia, they're very exciting. But Tom Latham, I think, well, Warwickshire had a bit of a middling year last year. And again, they've had a change in coach as well. So yeah, that's going to be really fascinating just to see if they're able to notch things up a bit this year. Because last year I watched them a few times and everything just felt a bit blah. That's my official.
Like the official analysis.
Yeah. It was just a bit blah,
Well, one player who isn't blah, and it's a little bit of a throw forward. I want you to give a really quick answer to this because we're going to focus a tiny bit. We're just going to give a nod to the Blast. I know we've got a couple of months of county championship ahead, but you've just recently been in South Africa for the SA20, and Hampshire have made a double SAFA signing of Luan Drake Pretorius and Devil Brevis. We know Brevis a little bit, baby AB, all of that. Luan Drake Pretorius, very quickly, is he potentially the best player in the world immediately? Is because he keeps scoring all these runs. It's red ball, white ball. He's dominated everything he's touched so far. He's still a teenager. How excited should we be to see him on English shores?
If everyone who watches him does not fall in love with his wrists, there's something wrong with them, right?
Perfect.
Amazing. He's still young. He's got a couple of weaknesses, and you've got to get him out early. But across formats, but so exciting. Honestly, I was there when he played that little flick off the wrist off Trent Bolt, and the video that it was Toby from Cricket District was filming in the press box. And if you actually look at the video that went up, you can hear me in the background going, "Oh my God! Oh no way!" I was going absolutely nuts. He is something to watch. Yeah, can I very quickly? I know you've picked out two South Africans, but if we're talking about white ball cricket. George Linder always gets overlooked. He's very unlucky not to have played more for South Africa. Very hard to get past Keshav Maharaj, but he's a heck of a player and was in my team at the tournament for the SA20. So watch out for him when he comes over here later this year.
Perfect. Mel, thank you very much. The first, and I can guarantee not the last time we'll have you on the County Conversation. But until next time, thank you very much for joining us. Mel Farrell there. First, and I can assure you, not the last time this summer. Right, the cricketer is proud to partner with the Cricket Draft this year. Visit their app to get involved with this year's County Championship Fantasy League. And to that end, it feels like an appropriate time to discuss a couple of players that we'll have a particularly keen eye on this summer. We asked every member of the cricketer team to chuck us a name as their one to watch. And we got a variety of names, actually, which is a relief because the worst case scenario when you do these things is everyone says the same people. Some of the names we got were Dylan Pennington, Rayan Ahmed, Jack Carson, Casey Aldridge, Tom Scriven. And we also messaged chief correspondent George Dobell for his pick, and here's who he had.
I think Ben McKinney is one to keep your eye upon. He's only 20 and he's only played 11 first-class games, but he's got a hugely high ceiling, which is just as well, I guess, because he's 6'7". But it gives him an ability to hit balls that others couldn't. And he plays with that aggressive style that the England management seem to like these days. Obviously, Durham have signed some really good players, Gay and Rhodes among them. And there will be competition for places, but I think he's the one that they'll start with, and he's got the class to play a part in Durham pushing for the championship this season. I think he's that good. It'll be interesting to see how he does on English pitches because he seemed to like pace coming onto the ball. He was very good in Australia for the Lions, who made a century against a high-class Australia attack. I think he might already have pushed in front of Lees and Jennings as the reserve England opener. And it is absolutely possible he could be in Australia again at the end of the year.
I listened to that when you sent it on to me. And as soon as George referenced
high ceiling,
I don't want to
It was
say,
funny.
I don't want to allude to the fact that George is becoming predictable, but I knew the joke was coming. It arrived. I didn't laugh, and I carried on with my life.
6'7", high ceiling.
I think
Won't be the first time.
Yeah.
Won't be the last. Josh Hull's in there somewhere.
Just, you know what's annoying, actually? I think I've made that joke before as well. So anyway, very quick aside, Ben McKinney comes from a school called Parkview College of Sport, Academy of Sport, which backs onto Chesterley Street. And they set up it's a state school that set up a cricket program 3 or 4 years ago. And they've already churned out 4 professionals. So they had McKinney, Jack Brassel, who's a Namibian international, who moved from Namibia to the northeast with his auntie and uncle so he could go to this school. There is Mitch Colleen from there as well. And the best story, their favourite story is actually a seaman called Luke Robinson. I don't know if he's made his first team debut yet. And they said they were netting as a school. They basically shared the facility of Chesterley Street. Robinson was bowling to kind of some of the students. And the Durham second team coach came in. They were sharing the space. And they went, does old mate want to come and have a bowl at us? 3 balls later, he hit Alex Lees in the head, and he had a rookie contract in front of him not too long after. So, very interesting school to keep an eye on. I've been doing a lot of work on that world recently, so you will be hearing more of that type of stuff in the coming weeks. Right, Nick, in terms of people to watch the cricket draft, your choice, please.
Well, if George hadn't gone McKinney,
I'd
probably gone McKinney. Interviewed him back in January.
Yeah.
No, back in February. After
he got ahead of the curve.
After he got that runnable hundreds against Australia A. He's cool. And I think there was that time when everyone was a small batter, because they're all the best ever were. But tall batters just look great, don't they? And he
just reached the ball.
He said to me very unashamedly, he just said, I can hit balls for 4 that other guys can't.
Yeah, I like that.
He also said to me that because he's tall, he also falls across straight ones.
I like the sound of him.
But no, my one's this is more of a concept, I suppose, than an individual player. I could have picked. There are several players you could pick. You know, I think I sent to you names like Daniel Bell Drummond, Sam Northeast. I just wanted to pick, and this is kind of like England relevant, I suppose, in the sense that these guys are kind of England irrelevant.
I think we've done the same answer. Keep going.
Well, I'm most interested to see how the guys get on who score 1,200, 1,300 runs this year. And that's not necessarily Northeast or Bell Drummond. And the guys who take 55, 60 wickets, that's not necessarily a Ben code, but I'm just intrigued to see what happens to them. The game is, this England regime is obviously, it's hard, isn't it, to ask who your bolters are for an Ashes squad. So you kind of feel like the bolters were picked last year. And they're kind of the name that the other guys have got.
That's a good point.
Pennington has been around the squads. McKinney played 10 first-class games, but you kind of feel like if Zach Crawley broke his finger tomorrow, McKinney would play against the
right there.
Whereas, and I'm just intrigued to see what happens for those other guys. Because there does need to be something to aim for.
I'm going to continue that thought because I wrote down on my notes here the old boys. Went Johnny Bairstow, James Anderson, Liam Dawson. I just think with the Bazball vibe starting to fray, greater currency / attention is going to be paid to raw numbers. I do think that there is an acknowledgement of that. The need for meritocracy is the kind of phrase I always keep on coming back to, where people need something to be able to aspire to. Yeah. And if we do have a situation where England could have a rough summer against India, well, they might have an amazing one, tipping into an Ashes year, the kind of want for kind of the safety, to borrow kind of great cricket parlance, of people who have put the performances in on the pitch. I think Rob Key and Luke Wright recognise that. I think I've changed my opinion over the last week. I think Sam Cook's almost guaranteed to get a game.
If Sam Cook doesn't play this summer, I'd be amazed.
I think part of the reason he's so guaranteed to play is because he skipped out on a bunch of franchise deals over the winter to make sure he was available for the England Lions stuff. And I do think those decisions give players a lot of goodwill to the selection management that be. So, right, up next, we've got Nick's conversation with new PCA chair, Olly Hannon-Dalby.
Welcome to this first, I suppose, sort of the first one of this part 3 that we're doing on this year's pod. Delighted to be joined by the new PCA chair, Olly Hannon-Dalby. Thanks for doing this. First off, how's the finger?
It's for ice hockey.
That's the good hand, I suppose, for for you?
Thank you very much for having me on. No, it's my left hand. We're just playing a warm game, and Luke Proctor whacked one back at me, stick a hand out, looked down, and this sort of thing goes out, and popped in the wrong direction. And what normally happens is you run off to the physio, they give it a good pull, and it pops back in. Unfortunately, despite our physio being a very strong South African man, he couldn't get it back in. So I had to go to A&E, and it took about an hour and a half to pop it back in, which was a bit of good fun. But yeah, luckily it's in now and it's fine. It's just it just cuts the skin when they pop out, so there's just a bit of a cut there. It's literally absolutely fine. It's annoying that if I'd have got it popped back in at the ground, I'd have been back on the field within 20 minutes. But because
you're all good for April 4th, 5th.
I'm hoping so. Yes.
You can bowl with it, but you don't bowl with that hand anyway.
Exactly, it's just a little finger, on the left hand. You don't need.
That's the least significant part of the body, isn't it?
I don't think I need it for batting either, so it's fine. Absolutely fine.
Well, it's a big time for you, I suppose. I mean, you've sort of added a second full-time job to the equation. Is that how it's felt so far?
No, it's been fine so far. I mean, it ebbs and flows, I think, a bit really. So when I first got elected, if that's the right word, and then we did the AGM, that was a busy week. But it's quieted down a little bit since then. We've been away on pre-season tour, but yeah, I'm still trying to get my head around what I'm actually doing and what the actual role is. But it's exciting, really. It's a really exciting time to be a professional cricketer in any guise. And if I'm sort of part of some of the big conversations that are going on, then that's great. And that's sort of the reason I did it, really. I've still got absolutely no idea what I'm going to actually be when I grow up and what I'm going to do after cricket. So this was a way of me. I've been a rep for a while. A way of me giving a little bit back to the game. And if it opens a few doors and it makes me decide that what I might want to do after cricket or what I might definitely not want to do after cricket, one of each, then that's all fine by me. So now it's exciting.
It must take some used to become. I suppose because you're the player voice, right? Like you are the lead voice for the playing community, male and female. Is that? Does that take some getting used to?
A little bit, but as far as I can tell, as long as I'm just communicating really well with all the other reps and any players that sort of come my way, then I think that's the sort of easiest way to go about it. Yeah, being head rep, I think, is the way I'm sort of trying to get my head around it, because chair sounds very impressive, and being the chair of an organisation is not really something that I'm used to. But yeah, I reckon being head rep is a better way of me thinking about it. But yeah, just being look, we've got loads of WhatsApp groups and whatnot, and just the AGM that we had where we had all the reps in a room and having good conversations there. I think it's just a sort of really good way to go about it and make sure I know what the players are thinking, and then not the PCA know what the players are thinking as well.
You've been elected for about a month now. I mean, when we first spoke to you as media, just after that, I think you were very keen to stress that you had literally just got your feet under the table, because a lot's gone on this winter, from the ECB's NOC policy that was sort of sprung on the game, the increase in salaries for 100 and how different those look to what you as reps were shown at your end of season summit, the implementation of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 back into the men's county game, I suppose, and then also obviously the sort of ongoing but also I suppose upcoming schedule debate that seems to happen every year, but does feel like this year, I think Rob Andrews said that this is the next one on the list now that the 100 sales process is kind of done with, certainly initially. I mean, a bit of a whirlwind for you. Like, how, I guess, are you satisfied with where the game sits on those various issues and discussions at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, well, as we speak, the PCA are going around every county and doing a pre-season meeting. And that's going to help a lot in that regard, because essentially going into every change room, every single professional cricketer in this country having a voice with the PCA sat in front of them, gathering all that information, that's going to really help with what actually players want, and that's literally happening right now. I think there's 2 counties left, Warwickshire and Gloucestershire being those 2 counties. So yeah, gathering all that information, essentially what players actually want, is going to be really important. In terms of all the other stuff, I mean, I think the word you used there was sprung on the game. The NOC stuff, yeah, it did sort of come out of the blue a little bit. I think that has died down a little bit, and there's been some really good dialogue between the PCA and the ECB, and that's probably progressed nicely, and it's perhaps going to be less of an issue than it first appeared when it was sprung on the game, 3-4 months ago now. The scheduling stuff, there's been some great comms in this sort of on the scheduling stuff between the PCA and the ECB for probably 2 or 3 years now. The players have certainly been very vocal about what they think. Safety being a big part of that, travelling great distances late at night after a T20 game, all those sort of things, aren't necessarily great and aren't safe. Having said that, we all know that cricket's an entertainment business, and we need to be out there in the summer making the most of it and playing a good amount of cricket. So it's good value for spectators. We all know that. But it seems that some good progress is being made here, and I think hopefully for the 2026 season, there might be some change, from the ECB. But certainly the ECB have been part of those conversations for a long time now. It's probably been grumbling on for 2 or 3 years. So that's good. I forget what else you asked.
Is that the sense you get? I mean, you said to me, you've joked to me before that the minutes at the first ever PCA meeting would have been pay, scheduling, and umpires
100%.
Back in 1967 would be the same now, right? And do you sense that this is the moving year, and that I suppose with the 100 windfall as well, there's probably never been a better time, certainly in recent years, to fix things around something that isn't just looking at the short-term finance of the game.
Yeah, that's the impression I get. I get the impression that both, as I mentioned, the players have been vocal about it, and probably from the ECB now, there seems to be an appetite to, create a schedule that suits everyone. Whether that, obviously, to get a new schedule through, that has to go through the county chairs, whether that's possible or not, and it obviously has to go through voting by memberships at a lot of places. Whether that actually happens or not is a completely other debate. But certainly, all the conversations I've heard from the PCA and the ECB, there seems to be a real appetite to do something meaningful about the schedule for, as you mentioned, years to come.
I mentioned the implementation of Tier 1 as well. How's that been for you? I mean, obviously you've had Heather Knight as a vice. Sorry, PCA's had Heather Knight as a vice chair.
Yeah.
I think Kate Cross has been a very vocal part of the PCA Players Committee for years, and obviously all the regions had reps, and all the councils have reps. What's that been like for you? Because I guess that is a different world, I suppose, for a male professional cricketer. And I suppose once as around everything you want to be, I presume once you hit April, everyone is all systems go, and it can't be that easy to keep in touch with what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Tier 1 in women's cricket, aren't we?
Yeah.
And from what I've seen so far, great. Women's cricket being more professional and being better pay and being better facilities. Obviously, just at those Tier 1 grounds has been fantastic. I think the proof of the pudding, and that probably some of the logistical issues might come in the summer when there are only a certain number of nets available and a certain number of pitches available. So I think we're definitely still in a finding out stage there. I'm obviously at Edgbaston, where we've got a new Tier 1 side, and it's been fantastic. A brand new changing room has been built, and a brand new state-of-the-art gym has been built for the women, albeit over the other side of the ground, which is a little bit of a shame because we don't actually see much of each other, bar slight crossings in the car park and give each other a wave. I think that, the money that's been pumped into the women's game there is absolutely brilliant, and for the next, we're going to reap the rewards of that for the next 10, 20, 30, whatever years. But definitely, I would imagine there will be some teething problems in the summer around pitches, around practice, around all that stuff. But, it's just something we're going to have to suck up and see, because, as I've mentioned, that money being pumped into the women's game is brilliant, and it being more professional is absolutely brilliant. There's still be work to do, definitely. Only this year, the women have got their own retirement the futures fund.
Yeah,
something the men have had for maybe 5 or 6 years now. The fact that women only got it this year is fantastic, but something that definitely needed to be addressed. So that's fantastic that now any female leaving the game gets a futures fund and gets a payment once they've left the game that helps them leaving the game, because we all know leaving cricket can be a very dicey situation. All the stats and figures say that it can be difficult, and players can have difficulties leaving the game. So the fact that women now their retirement pot, futures fund, I should say, is absolutely brilliant. But as I said, there will be a few more issues come up, I'm absolutely sure, and how that all fits into place this summer. I think Tony Frost is currently he's sort of changed roles and he's in charge of scheduling and practice schedules at Edgbaston, and he's certainly, I've seen him pulling his hair out a few times. Yeah, how can I get 60 cricketers all practicing at the same time?
For you, I guess, obviously you wear two different hats here in this role as both sort of representing the players, but also as a player yourself. Like what from a player, like what are the biggest, I don't know, sort of like outstanding issues that you'd like to see resolved this summer? Like those are obviously sort of the big, I don't know, sort of like headline pieces going on in the game that have gone through the winter and what have you. But in terms of, obviously there's a new CPA to be negotiated, which presumably will sort of be able to tap into some of those sort of slightly offbeat bits, if that makes sense, that you as players will know more about than the rest of us.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It was very well designed. The fact that this CPA agreement was only signed for 1 year, because we all knew that this, money was going to come into the game from the 100 sales, which has happened, and that's amazing. And as a cricketing community, I think everyone's amazed and excited by this sale. It's absolutely fantastic, and hopefully should do a lot to strengthen English county cricket, women's cricket for a hell of a long time to come. So that's absolutely fantastic. What's important now is how it's used. We totally understand that counties being protected and being looked after for the next 20, 30 years is massively important. But as a playing group, there are certain, there are a few things that we'd like to be improved as well. And if that can happen because of this sort of windfall of money, and with the new signing of the new CPA in 2026, I think it's going to be signed in February 2026. So if that can happen, because of that, that'll be absolutely brilliant. So again, going around the counties and gathering opinions and hopefully there's a consensus on what's most important, and we'll be able to ask for that for the new CPA.
Well, what sort of things are those? I mean, I know that I've heard it mentioned, for example, around the women's game, increasing the salary collar being the minimum spend that accounting can put into the sort of the squad's wages. Is it things like that? I mean, obviously I think a lot of the councils have spoken about using a lot of this 100 money to pay off debts and to almost put away as a rainy day fund. Whereas what has sort of been mooted among the playing community as areas they would like to see strengthened. Is it that kind of thing?
I mean, listen, like, players aren't saying, gosh, there's 500 million coming into the game, we should be seeing 75% of it. We totally understand. I want Warwickshire, Worcestershire, Leicestershire, Derbyshire county cricket clubs to be here in 50 years' time. And if this money helps that, that's absolutely, totally understandable. But you're right about just sort of probably basic stuff. Rookie contracts improving with the cost of living. I don't think they've improved in a while. The county, the salary collar increasing. Again with the cost of living. I think don't think they've improved in a while. I think the Futures Fund is an absolutely brilliant initiative. Something that's amazing. If that could improve, that would be also amazing. But again, we're garnering opinions around the counties, and I might be there. They are the things that I've got in my mind. But if 99% of the cricketers out there say no, we all want to have private Lamborghinis taking us to games, then we're going to have to listen to that. But yeah, certainly for me, if we can improve the schedule slightly, and I don't think it'll take a great deal to free up a few days, and Futures Fund, salary collars, rookie contracts, that sort of thing, I think that'd be great progress.
Do you have an opinion on what the schedule, on what that could look like in terms of, as you say, it's tweaks, isn't it, rather than surgery?
I don't, because I genuinely feel really sorry for Ford as the chap in charge of ECU surgery, because 18 counties and then women's cricket.
He's the human shield, isn't he?
Oh my gosh, trying to deal with all that, I really feel for the guy, and he does an outstanding job every year. But invariably, every year, someone has that, well, we're playing in Bristol on a Tuesday night and we're playing in Durham on the Wednesday morning type thing. That seems to happen every year, and it seems a bit unavoidable. Again, like I said, I'll repeat what I said earlier. We understand that we have to play. We have to provide value for the product, and I love county championship cricket. I love all formats of county championship cricket. Of county cricket. I don't really want to see massive reductions in the cricket played in this country, but I think little tweaks here and there, you could free up quite a bit of time, and maybe the scheduling would become a lot easier for everyone to deal with.
That's everything for this week. The County Conversation is brought to you by the Cricket Draft. I've been Cameron Ponsonby. Thanks very much to Nick Friend, Mel Farrell, George Dobell, and Olly Hannon-Dalby for joining us. We'll see you and speak to you again next week.